Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are doing my Q3 crafting wrap up. So everything that I have worked on or made during July, August, and September. I actually have a couple of little non-knitting alterations that I did this quarter. So I'll just show those to you quickly first because they're not big exciting things, but still stuff that I worked on. First, I have these gauze pants, which these ones are black, so you probably can't even see them that well, but I bought a couple of wide leg gauze pants over the summer. I needed them for something specific, and at the time I was like, the waistband on these don't really fit, but I'll fix it, you know? It's the evergreen problem of that, like, if a pair of pants fits like my hips, it will not fit my waist. And so I always have to alter pretty much every pair of pants I've ever had, except maybe like leggings because they're so stretchy. But so these, I bought these over the summer. I did use them over the summer, but I never got around to fixing the waistband. I finally just put some elastic in them so that I could actually wear these. I also have a green pair that I added the elastic to as well, and they have now become like my go-to pants to just wear for everything, especially for walking Merlin, because they are just very comfortable. So not a big exciting alteration, but still has actually made them like wearable and usable, and I finally got around to it. My other alteration is maybe a little more fun because I added some embroidery to a dress. So also gauze. I have these like gauze dresses that I wear during the summer because they are just so like light and airy and comfortable. When it gets hot and humid, they're great. But they're also very plain, and so I wanted to add a little pizzazz, and so I don't know how well you can see this. I think you can see that. I did this little star embroidery along the collar of this teal one. I also changed the buttons, so you can see this has little wooden buttons now. It had just like white plastic buttons before, and I think the little wooden buttons add a lot to it. And I really like the embroidery. I feel like maybe I should do more to this. So actually I would love any ideas. So some of the things I'm considering is, do I want to add some of the like gold embroidery on the cuffs of the sleeves? They're just short sleeves. This also has like tiers to it, so I could either like maybe add a little bit, maybe not as complex, but a little bit of something around the tiers or around the bottom. I'm not sure. Another thing that I've been considering is maybe getting some like velvet ribbon in like maybe like a green or a gold color, and putting that around like the cuffs or something. This relates to something that I've been thinking about recently a lot, which is just like adding a lot of like little detail to things. Something that I was thinking about is how much I used to love anthropology when I was in like middle school and high school. But I think that anthropology's aesthetic has really changed over the years, which most stores do. Now I feel like they're a little bit boring. But when I was in like middle school and high school, and really I was thinking probably around like 2005, anthropology was like peak to me. Like I loved anthropology, and around that time it had this real like kind of quirky artistic quality to it, and a lot of what was so fun about their style was that everything had like something that was a little bit interesting about it. It would have like a little embroidery and lace and velvet ribbons and these fun prints to them. Like they would just like layer all of this detail to it that made it so fun and have this very like artsy quirkiness to it that I loved, which you can't really find anymore. Everything's gone in so much more of like a minimalist direction, which like, if you can't tell, I'm not a fan of minimalism. I think it's just I don't see the point really. And so, but because I can sew, you know, and I am a crafty person, I'm like, why don't I just add that detail and that like layering of detail to my own stuff? So I was thinking of doing that to something like this, because I've already put like this little bit of embroidery. I could do a little more embroidery. I could add some like little velvet ribbon detail like around the cuff or something. I don't know. If you have thoughts, let me know, because I might be adding to this. I also think that I need to put something on the inside, because one, you can see how messy it looks on the inside, but also this is a little bit scratchy. So I think I need to line this also. Another thing I could use ideas for is I have multiple dresses like this. This is my only kind of like dark, not, but like medium kind of tealish blue one. And I feel like the star motif works really well. It looks kind of wizardy, which honestly is always my goal, is like eccentric wizard is my ideal aesthetic. That's what I'm going for at all times, eccentric wizard. But I also have a black version of this. I have like a bright green version of it. And then, oh, I also have another blue, which I don't normally wear a lot of blue, but recently I have been kind of incorporating more blue, and I find it very difficult to style because I'm so unused to using blue in anything. So I want to do some like embroidery on the other colors as well, but I don't know if I want to just do more stars on those, because maybe the black I could do stars because that would work. But like for the bright green and the other like light blue, I don't know. I mean, for green, there's always like a floral design or like a vine kind of design, but not too complicated. Like I want to do like a little bit of embroidery, but I'm not like a master embroiderer that I'm gonna like heavily embroider the whole thing. I want it to stay like light and airy as they are. Anyway, so that is my other little alteration that I have made. And then I also have 2 completed knit sweaters, so I'll show you those. So first up is this one, which is the stripe hype sweater. I did make some alterations to this. I mean, one is just that it is, the body of this at least is solid. Also, I have a video of this on my Instagram if you want to see like the whole sweater. I'm just kind of holding it up right now. But in the original pattern, the whole sweater is striped. I wanted to do just stripes on the sleeves. I also altered the width of the stripes. So here I think each stripe is 6 rounds, and then at the bottom half of the sleeve, each stripe is 3 rounds, I think. I also did a rolled collar instead of a ribbed collar. I think that's most of the alterations that I made to this. I followed the structure of it pretty closely. Also, back to the thing about dresses, the green dress that I have is almost this exact same color of green, just for reference. Okay, but this sweater, this is my first drop shoulder sweater. So that did mean that I had to knit at least part of it flat, because you have to kind of go back and forth flat and then join in the round before you can like go down and do the column of the body. I don't love knitting flat, so that was a struggle. I do think that maybe I have to figure out my sizing in a drop shoulder, because this one ended up being a little more oversized than I really wanted. I don't know if it's just, should I have done more like a set in sleeve, because this one, the drop shoulder is so dropped. It's like very low on me. And I like a drop shoulder, but I like a drop shoulder that's more like here, not like down here. So I do think that maybe I just have to either size it differently or maybe learn how to do a set in sleeve, because I just feel like this one doesn't quite fit the way that I want it to. Also, you know, I think overall, this is maybe my first sweater that I'm not particularly fond of how it turned out. I loved the idea of doing striped sleeves, but then I'm like, I don't know if I like how it turned out. I don't know if this is really the thing for me. Honestly, I don't actually wear stripes that much, and I still love the idea of a striped sleeve, but I don't know, something about this is not working for me. And so I am thinking that I may eventually take this apart and reuse the yarn for something else. I have some ideas of what I could do with this. That is one of the things that's really nice about knitting, is that yarn is really so reusable. With sewing, like, for the most part, if you cut a piece and you mess up, like, it's really hard to fix that. Whereas this kind of thing, I can just unravel all this yarn and use it for something else, which is very nice. So I may eventually take this apart and turn it into something else. Also, I will say on this one, my gauge was so inconsistent. Like, I don't have perfect gauge by any stretch of the imagination, but it was very uneven and got much looser in the body than I really thought it was going to, which also may have contributed to the sizing issues, because I did make a swatch for this, but then my gauge when I was actually knitting it was so much looser than my swatch, which I should have, I don't know, I should have done better about that, but that like also certainly impacted this. And then my other sweater that I completed is the field sweater. I don't know if my camera is going to show this color very well, but it is this kind of like heathered, like mustard kind of color. But I love how this turned out. This is probably the most difficult sweater that I have personally made so far. Granted, I haven't made that many sweaters, but this is so much more complicated and so much more difficult and so much more involved than anything else that I have made. And let me tell you, this took my whole brain while I was working on it. Like, usually when I'm knitting, I am like listening to an audiobook or I'm listening to a TV show or something, and for this whole yoke, actually, let me just hold this up. Do you see how beautiful this is? Look at that wheat. But for this whole yoke, I pretty much could not listen to anything while I was working on it, because, like, for one thing, this used cabling techniques. These aren't like traditional cables exactly, but a used cabling, which I've never done before. Every round was complicated and was, at least for me, because I have not done anything like this before. Maybe people who are more experienced knitters would not find it so complicated, but for me, very complicated. Every round was different. And also it has to be so perfectly lined up. Like, a lot of the time I kind of do things where I'm just like, close enough, you know? But with this, if the counting is not perfect, all of these lines will not line up correctly, and it's just gonna be a bumpy mess. It's gonna look like a whole lot of nothing, and there's gonna be no wheat pattern. So it just, like, it took all of my concentration. It took my whole brain to work on this. But I do feel like it was very worth it, because I love how this turned out. It is so pretty. I will say it is a smidge itchy, which this is the Cascade Woolpaka. And once again, I made a swatch. I tested it to see if it was gonna be itchy. I thought it was gonna be fine, and it is a little bit itchy. So apparently my swatches don't tell me anything. I learned the tubular cast on for the collar, because I wanted to do the collar, you know, that it has in the pattern. But I just feel like a lot of times like collars that aren't folded collars can look a little bit like unpolished or like a little bit messy. So I learned the tubular cast on, so it has this much nicer, like much more polished, rounded edge, and it's very stretchy, which is very nice. And then I learned the tubular bind off so that on like the cuffs and the bottom, it would also be stretchy and match how like kind of rounded and polished it looks. So that was really fun. Well, it's a little annoying to do, but it was very satisfying to do it and be like, look how like perfect it looks, you know? I'm a big fan, and I probably will use tubular cast on and bind off in the future because I loved it. This one surprisingly took way less time, maybe not so surprisingly, this took way less time to knit than this sweater, even though this one is way more complicated. And I think there are a few reasons for that. One being because it's more complicated. Plain stockinette is not that interesting to me, and so it's harder for me to like get excited about knitting when it's like so plain. And because this was more complicated, because there was more going on and every round was different, and it's like creating a shape, you know, it's much more motivating to me, so I worked on it much more consistently. This one also is not oversized, so just the circumference was a lot smaller, and also this one, I was working on this like while I was on vacation over the summer, so I didn't work on it very much at all for like at least a week. And this one I was working on while I was sick, so I didn't have a lot else to do. So I got a lot done because I was just sitting around feeling bad. So this one this is the other thing. I finished this one in 3 weeks, which is too fast. To the point where I kind of hurt myself. My elbow started hurting. I discovered you can get tennis elbow from knitting, which is not good. So then after finishing this, I had to take a break for a few weeks to like rest my elbow. And now I have to like do stretches and stuff before knitting, and I have to knit for shorter periods of time and have like elbow support and all of this to make sure that it doesn't start hurting again. Yeah, so I definitely overdid it, and I need to be more careful about taking care of my joints while I am knitting. And then I will just quickly show you what I'm currently working on, which is the Brady loop sweater. So let me see if I can show you on the shoulder here. There are these cables. After doing the field sweater, I was like, you know what, I don't want to do cables again. I'm gonna do, you know, like color work or something. And then of course I just started doing the Brady loop sweater, so I'm back to doing cables. But I do love the way that this is turning out. I think it is going to be so pretty. So it has this like wide rib all over, and then down the shoulders, like across the shoulders and then down the sleeve is this cabling, which is just, it's so pretty. Doing this, I have now learned what a saddle shoulder construction is, because I did not know that before, and I was extremely confused when I read the directions for this. But I have now figured it out, and yeah, so it's going well. I just recently joined in the round, so I can stop knitting flat, because that was terrible. I hate knitting flat, and now I can just knit in the round, which is fantastic. I also love this yarn. This is the color Setter by 29 Bridges Studio, and it is so pretty, and I think it's gonna work so well for the cables because of the color variation. It just, I think, is gonna add some nice depth. Also, these cables are gonna flatten out a little bit. They're probably gonna look a little bit more like that once it blocks out. This is superwash, so it might flatten out a smidge more than cables normally would, because it tends to stretch more. But very excited about this, but I'm going slow because I don't want to hurt my elbow again. So those are all the things that I completed in Q3 this year. What have you been working on? Have you made anything that you really loved this quarter? Please let me know. But thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.